There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friend Leigh Show. I am your host and friend, Leigh, and I am in a new place today. I am so excited. So, for those of you that know, Mike and I are finally, it's been a long journey. We are going to be able to live together full time. He finally was able to get over the border with all of his stuff. Well, not all of his stuff, but most of his stuff and do all the paperwork and all the things at the border. And so he just moved in. Not last night, but the night before. And so we have the internet. I didn't set up the internet. So so we have the internet here. Hopefully, it doesn't pose any problems because I had to kind of set everything up on my own because he didn't have time to do that yesterday. Anyway, so here we are. Welcome to my house. So, if you are new to the show, hello and welcome. And if you are returning, thank you. Hello. Oh, look at that. Pops is here. Morning. Okay, there we go. So, this show is a little different than most shows. So, I'll just let you know how we run it. We record live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, or whatever the equivalent is for you. And we do it live. So, this is the way that I like to think about it is that you're coming over to my house. I've invited you over. You've decided to bring a friend or two. I've invited a couple other people and we're all sitting in my living room and we're talking and maybe you come in and we're talking about a specific topic. So every month we have a general theme and then every week we focus a little bit on a different angle of our HAPPY acronym on that theme. And so you guys come into the living room and right now we're talking about worthiness and we're attributing it or comparing it to how it shows up with our youthfulness and how those are intertwined. And so we're going to start the conversation. But if you've ever been in conversation with me in real life, you know that because of the ADHD, it will not stay linear. We are not going to stay on an agenda of what that's going to look like. We are going to bounce around and you are going to share your thoughts, your experiences, your questions, all of the things. So, oh shoot. Okay, so Pop says, "Hello, is this thing on?" Okay, what does that mean? Because now I'm going to freak out. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Let me know. Am I green and purple like I was yesterday or last week? um, but I think it's because, did you say that because it was a joke? Because you can see the microphone and it's like, ding, ding, is this thing on? I hope. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me know, Britt. Okay, so I also, at some point throughout the show, I give a disclaimer, and I'm going to give the disclaimer right now. I am not a healthcare professional in any way. So anything that you listen to on this show, take it as entertainment, but also take it as education. Take it as, hey, that's a cool idea, or hey, I never thought about that. But if something triggers you that you're like, well, first of all, if something triggers you, I apologize. But also, that's cool. Now we get to look into that, right? But please take that to a healthcare professional, a therapist, a counselor, your family doctor, and have that explored and explore it with a medical professional. Okay. So just because you've heard it on the show doesn't mean that it is right. It is just my experience. It's the experience of the other friends that are here in the living room with me and you. And then maybe some things that I've learned along the way. So anyway, so that is that. I really hope you guys can hear me. Oh, okay. Now I'm getting a little bit nervous. Okay, so anyway, when I said that we were doing the theme and then we focus it around the 5-letter acronym, just in case you're new, I want to share that with you super quick. So we focus everything on the lens of happy. However, it is not a show just about, chin up, muster through it, like put on a happy face. We just know that everything that we do in life, we are always striving to be happy, safe, secure, and loved, right? That's what we're doing all the things for. That's why we work. If we worked and we knew that we're not going to be any happier at the end of it, would we stay? No. The thing that keeps us is because we think we're going to make more money, which will give us more experiences. And we're able to, let me just see. ADHD for a quick second here. And I am going to just see if anybody is commenting on something that I can't see because I'm getting nervous that potentially you guys can't hear me. Anyway, I'm going to keep going on with the show, as they say, and fingers crossed. Okay. So we look at everything through the lens of happy, and I have an acronym that I created, and it is the 5 areas that I think that if we focus on these 5 areas in our life, we will be happier. We will have a more quote unquote successful life, depending on whatever your definition of success and happiness is. Okay. So the 5-letter acronym is H for health. A is for affection, but affection for ourselves. How do we show ourselves that we love ourselves? P is for purpose. Oh, look at that. You guys, we're live streaming and we're on YouTube or Twitch. So if you are listening to this in the audio version, you just saw something funny or you missed something funny. If you're watching this live, you might also not have found that funny, but I did. Anyway, so where were we? We were on purpose. And so P is for purpose. How are you showing up and living your purpose every day? Britt says, here we are, live long and prosper. Okay, so, and then the last P is for partnerships, and that is relationships, but there's no R in happy, so I called it partnerships. And then the last one is youthfulness. And so what we do is we get the theme for the month, and then we do health and affection for ourselves as 1 week, the first week, because that's all really about us, right? Then we do purpose the second week. And so that really is not only about us, but it's about how we share our gifts with the world, right? Then the third week, we do partnerships. So that is our connection with the people around us, both intimate and warm relationships, but also acquaintances and things like that. And then week 4, we do youthfulness. And how does that tie in? And that's what we're going to be talking about this week. Now, on the months that have 5 weeks, like this month, we will do the 5th week, and that will be a friendship week. So that will be a week that we're going to do. I really hope you guys come because it's going to be really, really fun, I think, and I hope. So I am going to do up a bunch of questions, and I'm going to do like a, what is it called? Lightning round kind of thing. And I'm going to ask questions and have you guys answer them. And they're going to be easy, but just so we can get to know each other a little bit more. Nothing really hard, but maybe some of them are a little bit deeper. Maybe some of them are a little bit personal. And if you don't want to share, you can just ignore it. And some of them will just be, silly that I just want to know about you. So that'll be next week on the 31st. So if you're listening to this in the audio or the live version, make sure that you come back. Okay. So it's Wednesday, July 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Central, or whatever your time is. Okay. So worthiness and youthfulness. So why do I think that youthfulness is so important for our happiness? Because it's been proven that one of the best ways for us to kind of get through our trauma, or I like the saying of get through our trauma, because we're always going to be working through it. We're never really going to have where we're going to just be the end and be like, oh my gosh, I'm completely trauma free. But if we can be working on it, we can be recognizing it a lot quicker, and really essentially becoming friends with it and saying, hey, you know what? You're not really serving me right now. And so youthfulness and play has been proven that it is one of the best therapies in order for you to be able to get through your trauma. And there's a lot of recreational therapists out there. There's a lot of regular therapists that use play to help with that kind of therapy. My friend, a big shout out to Melissa. Hello, Melissa Tarr. So she actually has a company called Embrace Rec, and it's all about that. So youthfulness is super, super important. And you guys, when we are in play, so when we're, not worrying about anything, we're not working on anything, we're not focused in the future, we're not worrying about the past, but we're in play, then we're really in the moment. And a lot of us don't do that anymore. And I think that's a real big problem. So Britt says, your blouse matches the wall color. Mel beat me to it. It kind of does. It actually doesn't. but it kind of does in the camera. So that's awesome. Good job. I love you guys so much. Um, it's so funny what lighting does and what lighting also does, because usually I use a light ring when I was, at my place before. And the light ring, I'll show it to you guys. Look, this is all that it was. Okay. So it was, and that wasn't good for audio. Sorry, guys. That was a little delay. Um, that was just like this little light ring. It didn't really do much, but I still used it. Well, Mike has like this whole, I've got two big lights in front of me with umbrellas that are shining on me. And I was like, oh, Mike will be so proud of me that I used it. That'll be great. It will really help out. No, what it's doing, it's making me sweat like it is August and I'm like at the beach. So yeah, lighting does a lot of things. It does things with the color and also with heat. So sidebar. Okay. So, youthfulness. It is super, super important. And every month, like I said, we're going to be talking about it and how it relates to the theme. But here, when we're talking about worthiness, something that I was really thinking a lot about is how our level of self worth um, kind of does dictate whether or not we're going to show up as our youthful self. There's a lot of us that like are too embarrassed to be childlike, are too embarrassed to be curious and ask the questions because, oh my gosh, I'm gonna seem dumb, or who am I to be, asking questions or delaying presentations? If there's a presentation, you don't understand something, who are you to interrupt that? Um, if you're out and let's say you're walking with somebody and there's a puddle, come on, you guys, it's fun to jump in puddles, but maybe we won't because that's childish and we don't want to. Our self-worth won't allow us just to show up as our full authentic self, because we all have those moments that we're like, oh, that would be fun, but what will other people think? So that's why I think um, worthiness and youthfulness go hand in hand. But so the question would be, not but, the question would be, do we have to increase our self-worth in order to be more youthful? And I'd love to know what you guys think. Do you think that, oh well, I don't feel worthy enough to show up as my childlike self? Like, what will people think? Or do you think, because this is kind of where I am, is that the more that we live into those moments, then we're going to start feeling more worthy, because we're going to start really chipping it away at who we really are, because those are our like primal instincts. Like we get really, I went up to Toronto today to go for a kitchen delivery, and we stopped off at like, those like it's not a truck stop, but it's called En Route in Ontario, and it's like one of those off the highway. You can go in and you get like Starbucks and food and whatever, go to the bathroom. So we were in there and I was waiting in line and I was looking over at this kid and he couldn't have been 2. Right? Are you walking by 2? I don't know. I'm not really good at that, but I feel like he was walking, but like walking like a drunk, that age where it's just like, I'm kind of straight. Okay. And he was adorable and his dad was just letting him play. His dad was, I mean, he wasn't like screaming and being obnoxious. He was very curious. He went over, they had like recliner chairs that you could pay for to get like a massage. And he went over and he was like touching all the buttons and like looking back at his dad and like curious about like, what does this do? What is this? Why is this big chair in the middle of the room, And I went to him after and I was like, it was really cool to watch you let your son just be curious. Because how many times do we see parents and, I get it. I mean, I'm not a parent, so I can't really be like, let your kids play, because maybe, I don't know, maybe you can't all the time. But a lot of the time, like, I feel like we're so busy that we don't let our kids kind of explore the way that we used to explore when we were kids. And so he just let him. He just stood there and was like, okay, go on, buddy. That's good. And I mean, they weren't really talking because the kid didn't talk yet. He was just kind of like saying like one word things, but you could tell he was really inquisitive. And that's something that I think we're missing as we're getting older because we're too intimidated to act like we don't know things. But like, you guys, the majority of us don't know the majority of things, right? So Britt says, I have a childlike side pretty much front and center, but never really thought about it associated with self-worth. Okay. So that's interesting. So that's, and you've said that you don't really struggle with self-worth. So, right? Am I remembering this incorrectly? Am I putting you on a pedestal that maybe that's not there? I feel like you said that you don't really struggle with that, which I find fascinating. But that is cool. So, Britt, tell me, what are some of the things that are like your childlike side? What does that mean to you? What do you show? I was looking at a study, and I'm going to share it with you. Well, I'm not going to share the whole study with you, but I am going to share one part that I was like, oh, that's sad. So they did this study, and it was in Britain. And there were, I think, 200 people. I don't know. I'm not going to look back at it. But anyway, I think there were about 200 people that they had studied. And they wanted to see kind of like what people missed from when they were children. Okay. And so one of the polls or part of the poll said that it found that people typically remember as children, starting the day feeling happy, playful, and optimistic in their youth. Okay, those are nice. Like we should all be waking up feeling that way, right? In comparison, adults today say that they wake up feeling tired, stressed, and anxious. Right. And what is one of the things? Like, yes, we have more things that we have to worry about, more things that we're responsible for, but we also have less play. We have less curiosity. We have less being in the moment and more being in the future and worrying about the past. Like, when you were a kid, do you remember really worrying about the future or regretting the past or ruminating about the past? I don't feel like we did that nearly as much as we do now. Like the only times that I really could picture myself and remember myself thinking about the future, it was for excitement. It was never like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe maybe first day of school." That might have been something, like, "Oh my gosh, what is that going to be like?" That was always scary for me, I believe, from my memory. But the majority of my forward thinking was always like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for Christmas. I'm so excited for my birthday. I'm so excited to go to the zoo. I don't know what it was, but it was always like, I can't wait for the future. Like, I'm so excited about it instead of like, oh, what if the worst thing that I could imagine is going to happen in the future? Right. Um, so Pop says, no, it's a big hang up. I think you're remembering that I have no phobias. Oh, thanks, Britt. I'm sorry. I do listen. I'm so sorry. Yes, that's what it was. You have no phobias. And that I thought was like, what? WTF? That's unfair. Um, but okay. I mean, I don't feel better that it's a big hang up that you have a self-worth, but I feel like, okay, good. We're friends. So we're connected on that too. Um, so Pops also says, he says, I've always got a joke, even at the wrong times. I love playing games, cards, pitching washers, etc. What's pitching washers? Is that like a tiddlywink kind of thing? Do you guys remember that game, Tiddlywinks? What does pitching washers mean? I don't know what that is. Is that an American thing? And still see myself as a race car driver and a drummer. That is awesome. Mike's a drummer. So do you have a set of drums? Like, do you play? That's something I don't know about you. That's something that I'll probably learn next week. Okay, awesome. Awesome. So yeah, those are all really, really good examples. So playing games, super easy for us to incorporate. Really easy for us to incorporate because there's games that we can even play by ourselves. There's games that we can go online and play. Like Britt, he does the race car. What is it called? You do that on Twitch, right? And And I think that is super, super cool. I know that there's like people tease about like us being adults and like still playing video games, but like, come on. If you're enjoying it and you're with people and you're feeling good, I say go for it, right? And board games, awesome. Hopscotch, does anybody do hopscotch anymore? What is it? I think that's what it's called, right? Where you're like you do the chalk on the sidewalk and then you go and you hop through it. I've already done that I think 2 or 3 times this summer. Um Okay, so Britt is explaining to me what pitching washers is. He says 1-inch washers into a 3-inch hole 21 feet away. Oh, awesome. So that's kind of like cornhole. Do you guys know what cornhole is? Or is that a Michigan thing? The like sandbags, like the beanbag things that go into the hole, kind of like it always reminds me of skeet ball, even though it's not skeet ball. Anyway, awesome. That's really cool. And what kind of hole do you use? Like, is it an actual game set or what is that? Anyway, Britt also says, don't and never had a drum set, but have played on others and in my head all my life. That's awesome. Okay, that's super cool. Mike has a drum set, but is not able to use it in this apartment. So that's going to be a real big bummer. I feel really bad. Like I love this apartment. I'm so excited to be here. The view is like so gorgeous. Really, really happy. Downfall, no pets. So no puppies, no Yoshi. And also no noise. So I don't even know if I'm going to be too loud doing these podcasts, but we'll see. But that means like no drums, no guitar, no none of that, which is a big bummer. Okay, and then Britt says a 3-inch PVC pipe in the ground. You guys, that is such an easy game to play in real life, like, and that will not cost you a lot at all. I mean, you could also probably, I feel like you could also like just get, something that circle, like think of something circle or even a piece of paper and you could cut it out and put it on the ground. Like that's a little bit maybe Mickey Mouse, but like it doesn't have to cost a lot. And that sounds like a lot of fun. Are you good at it? I want to know. Not that it matters, but you can see my competitive side absolutely comes out. Awesome, awesome. So what are some other games that you guys play? What are some of the things that you do that you did when you were a kid that you don't really do now, but you still think about? Okay, so Britt says, I used to be good at it. Okay. All right. When was the last time you played? Let's get to it. Okay, so I feel like it does go hand in hand, like I said, with the worthiness. And one of the things that I pointed out last week that I want to reiterate now is that when we're talking about worthiness, it doesn't mean that if you feel like your self-worth is minimized or that you're not where you want it to be, it doesn't mean that you feel worthless. I feel like we're all kind of like we put these labels on us and it's like, oh my gosh, if I tell anybody that I've got depression, then they're going to think that I just like I can't get out of bed ever. And that's not what it always is. I mean, yes, it can be. But there's always moments that we get out of these feelings and that we can be feeling joy and we can be feeling happiness. So we can feel like we got to work on our self-worth, but we can also not feel completely worthless. So don't be afraid of when we're talking about these kinds of things and we're having this conversation in our living room, that you're like, well, no, I don't have a problem with worthiness because I'm not always like that. No, none of us are always like anything. It's just true. And the sad thing is none of us are always like ourselves. Anyway, Britt says, we danced a lot before my back went out. I also wish I could throw a football or play golf and dance again. Well, okay. So are there ever times that you're able to just shimmy a little bit, that you're able to dance a little bit? Or is it completely like you can't move? Because I feel like you could probably put some music on and maybe jam a little bit. Oh, which there's this there's a joke I want to tell you guys, and I'll tell you in a minute. Hold on one second. So Mel says we dance when we feel good, we still dance in the kitchen. That's awesome. There you go. So yeah, we may not dance as much as we did before, but even if we do, we got to really like feel and remember those moments when he feels good. Yeah, no problem. Mel, that's what I thought you meant. Um, yeah, we need to be really focusing on not the things that we can't do all the time, but focusing on the things that we are doing that we're enjoying, because then we'll have more, um, we'll be seeing more of those opportunities. It's all about our focus. We know that it's all perspective. Okay, so here's the joke. So there's this, I think I told you guys on the show before that there's this floor store. It's called the floor store. Um, Oh, hold on one second. Mel says, we still have date night. That's awesome. Tell me what you do. I mean, date night to me, like if I can just be in the same room with Mike, I'm going to feel like it's a date night. So I'm super excited at that. But give me some ideas. What do you guys do? Okay, so there's this floor store. This is a complete aside, but welcome to the living room. So there's a floor store, and every week they on their marquee, they do a joke. Instead of talking about what their what their specials are in the store, they do a joke. And today's joke was, oh, don't butcher it, Leanne. It was, oh, how do you get a Kleenex to dance? Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Tell me. Okay, so Mel says we go and eat. Hey, beautiful. That's awesome. Mel got it. You put a boogie in it. Oh my gosh. That's it. How do you make a Kleenex dance? You put a boogie in it. Okay. So I read that like 3 days ago, and I've been telling everybody because I think it's hysterical. Yeah. And then there we go. Immediately. So I do that and I'm like, I have to share it. But then it's like a little part of me feels like I need to say, grow up, Leigh. Right. But I don't want to. And I like that. I like telling jokes, just like Britt. So yeah, so way to go, Mel. You got it. Okay, so telling jokes, even if it's inappropriate jokes, like we gotta watch ourselves. And the only reason why I'm saying we got to watch ourselves is not because we don't want to get in trouble, but because we don't want to be hurting people. That's one of the things. The only the only thing that I feel like I don't really want everybody getting back to when we were kids is, hurt people. And when you are a kid and you're going through stuff, some of the games turn into like mean things. And so that is not going to bring you joy. Because it wasn't really, if we really think about it, it wasn't the mean things that we were doing that was making us feel joy. It was that when we were doing it, we were getting some sort of reaction from the friends around us. And so if they were laughing and they were having a good time, you were feeling connected. So it wasn't because you were doing something mean that, it was like, oh, that was, it was really a fun time. It wasn't. It was fun connecting with your friends. And if your friends and you were kind of a little jerk, it's not something to bring into adulthood. You know what I mean? But the games, the playing, the dancing's a big one. And you don't even have to like, you guys, I dance in the car all the time. And I'm just sitting there, but I'm like jamming. I mean, I can't dance, but I'm jamming and I'm moving. And if you're feeling good, Britt, like even that is enough to make you feel like you're in the moment, like really listening to the music and like feeling the music. I feel like that's part of youthfulness. I feel like being curious is part of being youthful. There's so many things that we just don't do anymore. Speaking about what we want and what we like, we don't do that anymore. I mean, some of us do. Some of us are good at that. But I think that that's one of the youthfulness things and tied to worth because we don't feel like we can speak up. We don't feel like we can say what we want because what are other people going to think? What maybe other people don't want that. And who am I to ask for what I want? Right. And I think it really ties in to our worthiness in seeing that we can, because if we really do feel worth being on this planet, and there's a lot of us that there are times that we just don't feel that way. And I'm going to say that's okay only because it's okay that we have felt that way, but it's not something that I want us to keep feeling because it is not through. We are all worth being on this planet, all of us, even when times are hard, knowing that there's going to be a time that it's not going to be hard, that there's going to be a time that it is going to be better. And we just have to get through those moments, and that's part of what this podcast is I always want to have a place, even if we're not doing a whole lot of stuff on the peripheral, although I really am. I promise I'm working on some things, but even if we're not doing a whole bunch of the other stuff, I want to be here at least once a week live, that we're together, because I want you to remember that I care about you, that people care about you. And as children, when we're little, like little before the traumas really start hitting, and that could just be, the first 3 months. But when we're looking for affection, we're looking for approval right away. We're looking at the doctor, we're looking at our mom, we're looking at people around us. So we're always seeking that. And I think it's really, really important for us to start tapping into what makes us tick, what makes us happy, and going after more of that. And being in play allows us to see that a lot more, because then it's like you kind of let things go, Mel said, his iRacing brings out his youthfulness. Oh, that's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. She also says it's a huge self-worth because it's been his therapy. Wonderful. As his wife, that's what I see. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So I think too, we don't have to do anything or be anything in order to be worth living on this planet. Okay. We just don't. That is true. That is fact. However, we feel better when we're accomplishing and when we're doing. And when we're being what we want to be. And so that's why, that iRacing probably is a form of therapy. And you're probably feeling most like yourself in that moment because you're acting. And when you're racing, you're in the moment. Like you can't really be like racing and also no, 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 no. You got to focus. Otherwise you're hitting the wall. Right. So you're in the moment, you're living your life. I think that is absolutely wonderful. And the doing, the acting, the taking action, that's what life is all about. The more that we're in our head, the more we're in all of the garbage. And so youthfulness, play, all of that gets us out of it and into the moment. I mean, just thinking about like any kind of thing there, I don't think there's any form of play that you could, tell me, is there a form of play that you can think of that you're not in the moment? I don't think so. Every game that you play, you're in the moment. Every thing that you act, you're acting. Even if you're like, doing a historical piece of like theater, you're still in that moment. If you stop talking, if you stop acting, you're not performing. So you have to be in action. And that's why I think play and youthfulness is so, so important. So what else is there? What other kind of things do you think of when you think of youthfulness? One of the things that I think of too is that we don't really question who we're friends with. We don't really question who we talk to. We're kind of just like, we know as like innately that we're all connected. We know that we can all benefit from each other as children. And so we don't judge, we don't do, and again, this can be, little kids, depending on when all of that starts shaping, depending on your parents, depending on what school you went to, depending on what church you went to, that's where all the shaping of this is. But when we're first born, we're not born with a set of prejudged kind of things that it's like you come out of your mom and you're like, okay, well, I can't talk to this person or this person. That looks a little shady. And you don't have that. You're just like, hi, world. And that is one of the things that I think we need to, yes, we have to be careful. This isn't a disclaimer. This is a talk show. This is a podcast where we're going to share ideas, but we're also going to make the assumption that you are going to make smart decisions with whatever ideas you get here. Okay. So if I'm saying you want to befriend people and be kind to people and be talking to people, I'm not saying that you see somebody with a gun in a dark alley and you go like, hey, I'm going to go make friends with him. No, you're going to be smart, right? But we can be a lot less judgy and be a lot more open about having conversations with people. Mel says, hanging out with my friends. Yes. So, do you make time to hang out with your friends? Because that's one of the things that Mike and I have both talked about it now that we're both in the same place. Because it used to be if we want to go anywhere together, we would have to come together at some point to go to our friends. So it was never like, hey, we're going to jump out, 15 minutes away or even an hour away. We would have to meet. We were always an hour easy apart. And so it was always like, okay, go the hour and then go, the half hour, whatever, to go see our friends. So logistically, we always made that as an excuse. Now that we're together, we're like, no, we want to spend more time with our family and our friends, have people over here. I think it's really, really important. That's a really good one, Mel. And I want to know, do you spend time with your friends? Do you make that time? Mel says, the other day at our red light, I saw a former teacher friend. We got out of our cars, ran to each other, and hugged. Ooh. Okay, so I just gave you a high five. Did you see that? It was two high fives. Oh, look at that. You can see the umbrella light I was telling you about in the window. Anyway, doo-doo. So that is awesome. Was it dangerous? Maybe. I'm hoping that it was at anyway, who cares? Congratulations. That is awesome. I really, really like that. Be careful if you are in traffic. Please do not get out of your cars and, go run and hug people. But, I'm sure you looked around, you knew it was safe, and you did it. So that is really, really awesome. Mel, that's why I love you. And Mel said it was also in a small rural town. Okay. So that makes it a little bit easier. I'm picturing in our big, city. Well, Windsor's not that big of a city, but that's what I'm picturing. So, which I would also love, everybody just getting out of your cars and just hugging each other. How cool would that be? Anyway, so awesome. Okay. And listen to this, what Mel said. She says, the cars behind me, they were smiling and we got honked at. Woohoo. Yes. And do you know why people were honking? Because you're hot, right? I know who you are. You're really, really good looking. So maybe that was part of it. But I think most of it was like, way to go. I wish that I did that. This is awesome. I love this, right? That's what and that's why we should be using our horn, not to be like, oh, it's been a nanosecond. Go, right? We should really be cheering just love and happiness and saying hi to people. Do you know that when I'm in the car, and this might be weird, but I'm going to share it anyway, so when you're driving, you're always looking, right? And when I'm driving down the street, especially if it's like a smaller street, not a highway, because there's not many people walking, right, on the highway. But when you're walking and there's somebody walking, or when you're driving and somebody's walking up towards you, I always try to make eye contact and then I smile. And there's some people that they then wave and I wave out my window and I know they're thinking, do I know that person? But here's the thing that I thought of. How cool is this? That person might have been just in a trance walking and just not really thinking any kind of good thoughts. And now for the next few minutes, they're thinking, how do I know that person? Oh my gosh, somebody knows me. Oh, they said hi. That feels pretty good. Oh, hopefully they're not berating themselves that they didn't recognize me. But hopefully they're just like, wow, that feels really cool. So, and then Mel says, I'm a waver. Yes, me too. Even at people that you don't know. Tell me, even people that you don't know, because I'm the same way. And Mel says, yes, you go, girl. Yes. I love that. Okay. So, so hanging out with your friends. Are you spending time doing that? Is that something that you could spend a little bit more time doing? And here's the thing. So all these things that we're going to be talking about, things that we could do to be more youthful, to be more joyful, to have more play in our life. They don't have to be huge things. Even hanging out with your friends, it doesn't have to be a 7-hour hangout. It doesn't have to be dinner, movie, and maybe a comedy club after. Like it can literally be, hey, let's get together for a walk. Go for a half an hour walk. It can be, hey, I have to do my taxes. I don't want to. Do you want to go on a Zoom call and you can do your taxes while I'm doing my taxes and we can just be in the same room together? It's called body doubling. You can do that, but you're in connection with your friends. And I think there's a lot of really creative ways that we can be spending more time with our friends and still getting shit done because life is busy, but it should not be, um, you know, at the risk of losing our connections. Because at the end of the day, when it's one of our last days and we reflect back on our life, it's been proven that we don't look back and be like, oh, that was so awesome, that overtime that I did. Or, oh my gosh, I made so much money. I'm just so happy. No, we don't think about that. We think about, yeah, we might think about the money, but we're not thinking about it in monetary things. We're thinking about the experiences that we created, the dinners that, Mel and Britt go on their date nights. And it's not the I spent, $50. It's Britt and I spent an hour or half an hour together across the table and just being together. So we need to make sure that we're doing things that are connecting us with our friends, with our family, with our close ones. I gave an example. I think I told you guys this. Like this was, when was it? Maybe February, maybe March. My girlfriend was going to for spring break. She was taking her kids to Florida, and we really wanted to get together. We haven't been together in, I don't know, a while. And we were trying to make like, okay, when are we going to be able to do it? Looking at her schedule, looking at my schedule. And she's like, oh my gosh, okay, so and she told me like all the things that she had to do before she was going away to Florida. And that was going to be in like 3 days. So I was like, well, don't stress out. Like, we don't have to see each other now. We can wait till you get back. But then I said, or do you want me to come shopping with you? Because she had to go shopping and not for like anything super fun. She had to get a couple like skirts and she had to get a bathing suit and Monique, if you're listening to this, what else did she have to get? Anyway, she had to get a few things. And so we went and we did it together. And it was so fun because now instead of just sitting in a coffee shop across from each other talking while she's thinking about, oh my gosh, I really need to do this, this, and this, she's getting it done. And we're still talking while we're looking through the aisles, we're still connecting and we were together. And then at the end of the night, she had all of her shopping done and I got connected with my friend. So there's a lot of really cool things that we can be doing outside of the box to be hanging out with our friends. Because when we were kids, we didn't always just play. Sometimes we went and like helped, like if your friend's bike was broken, you weren't just like, okay, well, see you when I see ya. You were going over and trying to like help them, or they needed to, I don't know, they wanted to paint their toy or something. I don't know what it was. Anyway, there's things when we were kids that it was like, well, I'll just come over and we'll do it together. And we don't do that anymore. It's like we feel like all of our responsibilities we have to do alone, even though we're all doing the responsibilities together. Like if you do laundry at a certain time, why don't you just have your girlfriend either come over and do laundry with you or get on Zoom or get on whatever and be like, okay, I'm putting a load in. So anyway, let's and like spend time together instead of just on your own saying, I wish I had more time for friends. So that was a side rant. Okay. So Britt says, this is small town Texas. We all wave, nod, and smile. That is awesome. I love it. And we can take that and use that even in big cities. It does not matter. Like, yeah, maybe some people will feel a little bit weird at first. But even when I'm in New York, you guys, I'm smiling, I'm making eye contact. Now, this might not relate completely to every country because I have been told, I can't remember what country I was in, and I was like smiling and nodding at everybody. And then one of the people that lived there told me, and they're like, it's actually disrespectful to make eye contact. And I was like, oy, sorry, did not know. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. So, but in America and Canada, it is respectful to make eye contact and to smile and nod. So please feel free to go ahead and do that. Okay, so what are some other things that we can do that if you knew that you weren't going to be judged, if your worth was not going to be on the line, if you knew that you weren't going to look weird or feel weird, what's something that you used to do that you would do now? And one of the things might be the way you dress. So I remember when I was a kid, I always, I had long, long hair, and my scrunchie for my ponytail always matched my scrunchy socks. Do you guys remember the scrunchy socks from the 80s that we would get like 2 or 3 pair, and we would put them so then they were like, a double layer of colors or 3 colors. Anyway, they would always match. And I loved it. And then I went to high school and socks were still a thing for me. I went to a Catholic high school and we had to wear a uniform. But the one thing that it didn't matter what you wore were your socks. So I always wore just like funky, different, cool socks that I loved. And then as I grew up, quote unquote, became an adult, I translated that into shoes. And so I always wore like different colored shoes or different style shoes. And so I remember I was always complimented. When I was working at the advertising agency, people they would see me coming. And it was so funny because I'd make eye contact and immediately they would look down at my shoes to see what shoes I was wearing. And that I never really thought about it, but that was really part of my expression of my personality. And I brought that from when I was a kid. I felt really good about the socks I was wearing. And so I kept going. One thing I love is a lot of the guys now, well, not a lot actually, I shouldn't say that, but quite a few guys that have to wear suits or have to dress up for work. Socks are in for them not to be matchy, for them to be bright and bold and really showcase your personality. So, what are you doing with your wardrobe now that you wouldn't have done when you were a kid? Mine is black everything. This is gray and black. I'm really trying to add color to my wardrobe. So you guys might notice that I'm wearing more pinks and more blues and more greens because I used to wear color. And then I got to this self-conscious phase where I was like, well, black looks great. It's slimming and it goes with everything and it's easy and I sweat, so you can't really see the sweat. And those were all my justifications. And so I just wore black all the time. So I really do want to get back to, being youthful in my clothing. And that doesn't mean like a mini skirt and things that you wore when you were like 19. But you can have fun. I love it when I see women, especially when they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and they've got like cute dresses and cute things. And it's just like, oh my gosh, you're just having such a good time, like unapologetic. That's another thing I think of being youthful. You're just unapologetic. This is me, take it or leave it. You don't like it, I'm going to see the next friend that I'm going to make on the jungle gym, Okay, so Mel says, big hair is still a thing for me. Yeah, Texas. I have so many Texas friends now. Ever since I joined Color Street, the majority of my team is in Texas. And so that is one of the things, the big hair. I love it. And I love that you guys are still doing it. Britt says, skydive with a wingsuit. I would still skydive regular style today. Oh, what? What was my question? Because I'm far behind. Was that a question of what did you used to do that you would do now that you wish you were doing now? There was no questioning about your worth or about what people would think. That is pretty awesome. Or have you never done it before? Let me know. Britt says, mini skirt and crop top and a side ponytail. Hey, did you see old pictures of me? I also used to do, what do we call it? It was like the whale spout where you'd bring all your hair up and then have like this ponytail right on the top and it all went out. And then I used to have the big bangs. Do you guys remember the big bangs that it would part here and it would come up and then come down in these massive, big curl hair. And then your ponytail slicked back. So then it was just bangs and that was it. Mel, tell me that I'm not the only one that went through that stage. Mel says, I wouldn't have ever tucked in my shirt. However, since I've lost 50 pounds, I'm more confident in tucking in my shirt. a boom. Congratulations. That's amazing. And isn't that funny? It's like, and I totally get it. I totally get it because I feel very different. I've lost 30, and the things that I did when I was 30 pounds heavier, it's like you get self-conscious. And I hate that we do that, especially as women, because there's so many men that like have a beer belly and they don't care. They just walk around and are like, hey, that's what it is. I have that because I enjoy beer. The end. And they don't care. They wear their tight shirts and it doesn't matter. And then us, we've got a couple extra pounds on us and it's like, I have to look perfect. So I'm just going to keep everything, wear layers. Come on. So congratulations, Mel. I'm super, super proud of you. And I'm happy that you're confident to tuck in those shirts. Mel says, congratulations. Yay, you. Yay, us. So, and I did not mean to like, that was not a like upping thing. I'm learning that when I try to connect with people, this book that we're reading, it's so good. But I'm really learning that I have like some poor communication where I feel like I'm connecting with people and it's really not coming across as connecting. It's coming across as like trying to one up somebody. And that's not what it is. It's just like, I hear you lost weight and I was like, okay, well, I felt the same way when I lost my weight. But it's like, no, just like stop that and just like stick with you, Mel. And so I apologize. I am going to learn. And in this podcast, you will be seeing me backtrack on things not because I feel bad about it, but because I want to learn. And the quickest way for our body and our mind to learn and our subconscious to learn is to actually verbalize the way that you wish you would have handled it. So, so when you're doing it, if you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, but inside your mind, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Instead, just say, you know what? I shouldn't have said it like that. And then say it the way you meant to say it. You don't have to be like, it's not like an interview where you like, that's a cut and then that's what you have to take. You could just say something. It can come out inappropriately. And then you can also correct yourself. And people on the other end, the receiving end of that, are going to be like, man, dude, that was cool. Like, I don't even remember what the first thing you said was, but I just think that's cool that you were able to like change it up and catch yourself. Cause I think we catch ourselves, but then we get in our head and then we just stay there. And kids don't. Kids say the first thing that comes to their mind, but then if they like the friend hears it, the friend's not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe she said that. They'll be like, what do you mean? Like, and then they'll have a conversation and they'll be like, I didn't mean it the way you thought I meant it. I meant it like this. And we'll be like, oh, okay, we're best friends again. Right. But as adults, we don't do that, like questioning what was meant by something. And then we don't reiterate it in a different way. We're just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to take offense to that. And then, oh my God, I feel stupid that I did that. And then nobody's talking. And then all of a sudden it's like 20 years go by and you lost your best friend. That was exaggerated, but you guys know what I'm talking about, I think. Mel says, I never have thought about that about you. Well, I'm learning that about me, Mel. I don't know that I do it all the time, but I really do. That's part of how I connect. And I do want to get better at that. And so that's the other thing. When I say things that like, oh, I need to get better at that, it's not to be like, oh, I'm going to berate myself and I'm going to go like put myself in the corner because I feel bad about it. It's just like, here's something I realized. That wasn't the best way to handle it. And I'm going to try to do better the next time. And then I'm going to probably do it again the next time, but then just try to like fix it, you know? Mel says, I'm too blunt. I'm working on it. Okay. So when you're too blunt, which by the way, I love about you, when you're too blunt, here's the thing. So that part when I'm telling you about like the kind of going back and like you realize it wasn't received the way that you meant it to be received, if you can just like not backtrack out of it out of shame or out of embarrassment, just be like, okay, by the way, that's not exactly what I meant. What I meant was blah, 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 whatever. Just so then you can kind of, it just gives more conversation, more context. And I think that's okay. I think we need to be more honest and authentic in our conversations with each other, you know, like be more like a kid, you know, where we weren't always questioning what we say and what we're doing. We kind of just had those conversations and then we were able to get over things so much quicker. It wasn't until, I mean, some of us, maybe not as kids, but for the majority of us as kids, we were able to get over things a lot quicker. Like we could start recess mad at our friend and by the time recess was done, we could be best friends again, you know? And now it's like we hold grudges, we think too much about things, all this kind of stuff. So, and then it all taps into our worthiness. If we felt more worthy, then we wouldn't question all of these things as much. We could really live our most authentic self. And I do kind of hate that there's so many of these buzzwords that are just like, what's authentic? And like, it's not, I've said this on the show before too. Being authentic doesn't mean just like waking up in the morning and then just going to work, in your pajamas and not, showing up. It's being your best version of yourself for that day. And so if you're having a shitty day, then you're not going to be like wired and super excited, but you can still be your best version of yourself that day, whatever that means. So we can still always be trying to be our best version, not for society, but for ourselves. Because we always feel good when we're taking care of ourselves, when we're looking in the mirror and we're like, awesome. Today, I just put makeup on. It was my 2-minute makeup and I put it on. I didn't wear it all day long. But I put it on for the show, not because I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be recorded and I have to look good. You guys know I've come on the show without makeup on before and I don't care, but I put makeup on because I also know that I'm really tired. I have a really bad headache. I just want to go to bed. And I know that as I'm looking at myself, I'm going to feel more alive if I look more alive. If I keep looking in the mirror, so to speak, as I'm looking in the recording and I'm seeing that I look really tired, it's going to make me feel more tired. So the way that we show up for ourselves, I think is important. And we do that as kids. Like how many kids are like, they wake up and they say, okay, I'm going to wear my princess tutu today. And yeah, let your kid wear the princess tutu. Like that's what they're feeling. And then that's going to make them feel better as they're going on with their day, you know? Anyway, as always, we've gone astray a few times, but I think it was a pretty good conversation. I think it was fun. I really, really, really hope that you guys come back next week. And I hope that you bring a friend or two. I think it's going to be cool. If there's questions that you want, I want you to think about them. You can put them in the comments next week and you can ask me questions and I will give you my best answer that I can. But also, if you have questions that you want me to be asking, you can email the show at thefriendleishow@gmail.com. Leigh is spelled Leigh. And or you can hop on over to the Friend Leigh Show on Facebook. That's where we normally are, even though we stream on YouTube and Twitch. I'm not really there other than the live stream. So you can come on over to the Facebook page. It is private. You will have to answer a couple questions. It's just because I don't want any bots in there. So you can do that. And then I let everybody in. You can come on in and I usually go live there. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times a week, sometimes 7, depends on how I'm feeling. And that group is yours too. You can post whatever you want. So I hope that I see you there. But if you have some questions that you want for the lightning round of the Friend Leigh Show next Wednesday, let me know. And yeah, we'll see you next week, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this show. But I don't know why that got so loud. Mel, Britt, thank you so much for being here live. That is my favorite part. It'd be really awkward if I was in my living room and just like talking like this without anybody across the couch for me. So thank you for showing up. I love you guys, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye.